Hi, this is Ajay Anand and welcome to Social Science Lessons from excelup.com. In this video, you will be learning about resources and development. I will be talking about the types of resources, resource planning, land resources and soil as a resource. So let us start with the definition. Everything available in our environment which can be used to satisfy our needs can be termed as a resource, but there is a catch. That one factor is that it should be technologically accessible. That means the technology for harnessing a particular resource should be available. Then it should be economically feasible and culturally acceptable. So if harnessing a resource is not economically feasible, it is very costly, then we cannot call it a resource. Then cultural acceptance is also an important factor. This diagram shows the interaction of various factors when we are harnessing the resources. So these are human beings, this physical environment, institutions and technologies. So the interactions between physical environment, human beings, technology and institution, they ensure that we are able to harness a particular resource in a fruitful way. So until unless we have proper technology and proper institution, we cannot get benefits from our physical environment, right? Let us move on to the classification of resources. So resources can be broadly classified into two types. Number one, natural resources, and number two, human resources. Human resources can be of two types. The one is structures and institutions which play the role of enabling factor to realize the full potential of human resources. Then there is the matter of quantity and quality of human resources. Then natural resources, it is divided into two types, renewable resources and non-renewable resources. So resources which can be renewed in foreseeable time are called renewable resources, and the resources which cannot be renewed in foreseeable future are called non-renewable resources. Renewable resources can further be classified into two types. One is continuous or flow. So wind and water, they are continuous, they are flowing. And biological resources, forests and wildlife, they are biological resources. Non-renewable resources, they can be of two types, recyclable and non-recyclable. So coal and petroleum, they cannot be recycled. Iron, aluminium, glass, etc., they can be recycled, right? Resources can also be classified on the basis of ownership. So these are individual resources, for example, a house, farmland, a shop. Community owned resources like the neighborhood park or the Panchayat Bhavan. National resources, technically all the resources are national resources. They are the property of the government, because a government can even acquire your land or your house if it needs to do so in order to ensure public good. Okay, but in general, certain resources like railways, roadways, rivers, etc., they are national resources. And things which are out of the geographical boundaries of nations, they are taken as international resources. So open seas, land in Antarctica, etc., are examples of international resources. Resources can also be classified on the status of development. So if technology is not available to harness a resource, but a resource is available, it is called a stock resource. So for example, hydrogen fuel. Hydrogen is available in plenty in atmosphere. If water molecule is broken, it gives hydrogen and oxygen, and the hydrogen can be utilized as fuel. But right now, the technology to harness hydrogen fuel is not available. Whatever technology is there, that is in nascent stage. So it is a stock resource. If technology is available, resource is available, but we are not using the resource as much as we should do, then it is called a potential resource. For example, solar energy. Let us take the example of India. This country is in the tropics, and the whole Indian peninsula gets plenty of sunshine for most months of the year. But we are not harnessing solar energy to a level which we should. So that is why solar energy and even wind energy, they can be termed as potential resources. Developed resources are resources which are being used profusely. So coal and petroleum, soil, these are developed resources. Now what happens to development of resources? There are some side effects of development of resources, and they are depletion of resources, accumulation in a few hands, and ecological crisis. So let us take example of coal and petroleum. The scientists, they have estimated that after 50 years or 70 years time, there will be no coal left on the earth. So this is happening because we are using coal at a very fast rate, and we know that it takes millions of years for replenishment of coal. What happens in order to overexploit the resources? Finally, the resources end in a few hands. So it creates two classes of haves and have-nots. The haves, they have all the resources, and have-nots, they are barred from access to resources. So this often creates conflict in the society. So this is a big problem of development or exploitation of resources. Then over exploitation of resources, it has resulted in ecological crisis. So we are suffering from global warming and sudden changes in weather. That is because of global warming. We are suffering from harms of air pollution. Every year during the months of October and November, many cities in North India, especially Delhi and surrounding areas, they experience a long spell of horrible smog, which gives rise to increased cases of respiratory tract infections in this area. All of this is happening because of over exploitation of resources. So what is the way out? The way out is sustainable development. Sustainable development is the approach which says that development should not damage environment, and the present development should not be at the cost of future development. So for example, if we are using fossil fuels, so every time we burn the fossil fuel like coal and petroleum, we damage the environment, because burning the fossil fuel results in emission of carbon dioxide and many other obnoxious gases. Okay, so we need to switch over to environment friendly fuels like CNG or maybe solar energy also. The present development should not be at the cost of future development. So we should use resources in a way that we should be able to leave plenty of resources for many generations to come. And that is the idea of sustainable development, that development, it can be sustained in the long run for hundreds of years. Okay, so it should not be concerned only with the current generation. Now let us talk about resource planning. Utilization of resources needs good level of planning, and the process of planning, it involves 3 steps. The number 1 step is identification, and inventory of resources, building a planning structure, and matching resource development plan with national development plan. So identification and inventory of resources, it involves survey of the area with resources, mapping of those areas, then quantitative estimate and measurement. So once the survey and mapping is done, we need to analyze whether proper quantity of resources is available or not. Say for example, if the scientists and other people, they find that okay, a particular town has the potential of having oil well, but another estimate says that the quantity of oil is minuscule in that area, so and it is not feasible to extract oil from there. So all of this becomes a part of resource planning. Then we need to build a planning structure. So in India, there was Planning Commission, which is now named as Niti Aayog. It is a planning structure which has access to proper technology, skill, and institutional setup. So skill in terms of maybe statistician, scientist, engineers, okay, institutions, several institutions, they need to be built in order to plan about proper utilization of resources. Then we also need to match the resource development plan along with national development plan. So every country has some sort of national development goal. For example, in case of India, let us say that we want to be a $5 trillion economy by say 2025. So resource planning should match with that goal about the national ambition. Land resources. Land is an important resource. We live on land, we do farming on land, we build houses, factories on land, animals, they live on land. So we cannot live without land. This pie chart, it shows different types of relief features in India. So out of the total land area of India, 43% is composed of the plains, 30% is composed of the mountains, and 27% is composed of plateau. Okay, so let us see how we are using this land. This data, this pie chart shows general land use during 2002-2003. So out of the total land under use, 43% comes under the net sown area. So this is the area where farming is being done. Okay, so these figures, they are similar, but this does not mean that farming is done only in the plains. Some of this figure may come from here also, mountain areas also, and farming is done in plateaus also, in Deccan Plateau. Okay, now 22.5% is forest area, 6% is barren and wasteland, then 7% is non-agricultural use, 3.5% is pasture land, 1% is miscellaneous, around 4% is culturable wasteland. So it's a wasteland, but it can be used for farming. Then 7% is current fallow land, and 3.8%, that is around 4%, is fallow land other than the current fallow land. So what is a fallow land? A land which is left after cultivation for some years. So what farmers do, say they have grown a couple of cycles of crops in a farm, they leave that land unutilized. That land is called fallow land for say 1 season or 2 seasons, so that the soil can replenish its fertility. So this is fallow land, the land left after farming for a couple of seasons. Okay, so major portion of land is being used for farming. Now because of excess use of land, we are also suffering from the problem of land degradation. Around 130 million hectare of land comes under the degraded land as per the 2000 data, India wastelands. So this pie chart shows the types of wasteland in India. The major portion has turned into wasteland because of erosion from water. 28% is the forest degraded area, 10% has become degraded because of wind erosion, and 6% is saline or alkaline land. Okay. Let us come to the soil. Soil is an important resource, and there are 6 types of soil: alluvial soil, black soil, red yellow soil, laterite soil, arid soil, and forest soil. The alluvial soil is made by the silt which is brought by rivers. So the plains of Ganga and Brahmaputra, they are made of alluvial soil. Then the eastern Ghats is also composed of alluvial soil. That area falls in the delta of Mahanadi and Kaveri rivers. The alluvial soil has proper ratio of nutrients, and that is why alluvial soil is highly fertile. Alluvial soil can be divided into 2 categories. One is called the Bangar and another is called Khadar. The Bangar is the old alluvial soil and Khadar is the new alluvial soil. Okay. Let us look at this map for a better picture of the soil types in India. So the dark green color is showing forest soil. Forest soil is found mainly in the areas of Himalayas and some portions of the northeastern states. The forest soil is having a very high level of moisture but a very low level of humus. In snow-capped areas, the forest soil, it becomes acidic, so it is not ideal for farming. Then in the northern plains and in eastern Ghat and at some portion of Gujarat and Rajasthan, we get to see alluvial soil. So this is the area of the highly fertile soil, and that is why this area is among the most densely populated areas of the world. That includes Bangladesh also. Okay. Now let us come to red and yellow soil. The color of the soil is red because of presence of iron, and if the soil is hydrated, then it gives a red appearance. This type of soil is found in Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, parts of Orissa, then Telangana, Tamil Nadu and Kerala, and in many northeastern states. This soil is not very ideal for farming, but with proper use of irrigation techniques and manures and fertilizers, it can be utilized for farming also. Now the black soil is made from igneous rocks, and black soil is a very good absorbent of moisture, and it is having nutrients in decent amount. Black soil is good for cotton farming, and that is why this area of Maharashtra and some portions of Karnataka, even this portion of Gujarat, they are very good for cotton farming, and Maharashtra is the leading state in terms of cotton production in India. Laterite soil is found in small pockets in different parts of the country. So there is the Western Ghat, there is the portion of Madhya Pradesh and some portion of Rajasthan, some pockets in Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh. These are having laterite soil. That is not good for farming. Arid soil is found in Rajasthan. It has almost no moisture, so it is not ideal for agriculture, but thanks to the construction of Indira Gandhi Canal in Rajasthan, this area has been converted into a farming zone also nowadays. Okay. Soil erosion. So removal of topsoil is called soil erosion. So we can also say denudation of soil cover. During ideal period, the process of soil erosion and soil formation, they take place simultaneously, and there is generally a balance between soil erosion and soil formation. But because of human intervention and many human activities like deforestation, overgrazing, construction and mining, this balance has been disturbed. So what is happening? The soil formation is not keeping pace with the process of erosion. Okay, and that is why we are suffering from the problems of soil erosion at many places. Soil erosion also takes place through natural forces, especially by running water. So this diagram shows the three types of soil erosion by running water. One is called the rill erosion, then gully erosion, sheet erosion. When a river stream, it erodes the soil within a narrow channel, this is called rill erosion. When the width of this rill widens, it becomes a gully, which is called gully erosion. And the land, the soil which is eroded leaves a trail of gully, this is called badland. This is called ravines in Chambal. When the soil erosion takes place in large sheets because of running water, it is called sheet erosion. So this is how the severity of soil erosion progresses from rill erosion to gully erosion to sheet erosion. How do we prevent soil erosion? So there are many methods. One is strip cropping. For this, strips of grass are planted in the farm in parallel rows. So what happens? This portion, the portion where the grass patch is there, it helps in preventing soil erosion. It also helps in ensuring recharge of groundwater, because it allows percolation of water underground. Okay. Now in hilly areas, terrace farming and contour cropping can help in preventing soil erosion. So what happens? Because of terrace-like structure of farming, the speed of running water, it reduces, and it helps in preventing the erosion of soil because of running water. Same thing happens here also, that farms are made, the plot along the direction of contour of the hilly area. This prevents soil erosion. Then windbreaks are made by shelter belt plantation. So rows of trees are planted along the boundary of farms, so that these trees, they can prevent soil erosion by wind. So these methods, they are being practiced at many places, and they have helped in preventing soil erosion. To recapitulate, I talked about definition of resources. Then I talked about the types of resources on various parameters like ownership or stage of development.